Alright, I just got done doing my engine mounts in the last video, but now we are going to install the angle kit. So this kit comes with the knuckle adapter with an Ackerman setting as well, and I believe this is set at 0 Ackerman. If it is not, someone please let me know. The other two holes change Ackerman, but I believe that this one's 0. And I'm just gonna rock with that for right now, and then with the lower control arm with caster adjustment over here. Just to move back and forth. And then you got your track width adjustment right here with a nut that'll tighten it. A part for your lower strut mount, and then you got a bump stop that's adjustable. You got your sway bar and link connection plate that's adjustable as well. You adapt it to this, or you bolt it to that, and then you have different stiffnesses. I'm not too sure how it mounts yet, but figure it out when it gets on the car. And then you got your new tie rod, pretty much adapter that'll thread into your offset rack spacer that we got, and then that'll thread into your tie rod adapter that'll thread into this joint over here. We have an offset rack spacer for this, and this is adjustable as well. I guess you don't need to use it as offset, but I'm going to help prevent steering bind. I don't know what wheels I'm going to rock up front. These are super wide, and I'm already rubbing the lower control arm. I have an inch smaller wheel in my Accord that I can maybe rock, or I can walk the really big offset on the stock wheels. So we'll see what we can do and throw this angle kit on. Alright, got the wheels off and everything, and we are going to start by taking off the caliper and the brake line out of the way, and the speed sensor, and then taking off this knuckle, and then making it easier to work on everything else inside of here. So we're going to need to remove the inner tie rods, the lower bolt for the coilover for the lower control arm, the other bolt for the other upper lower control arm, whatever you call this one, plus this one up top, and then we can remove the knuckle. I cannot believe that worked. Since this bottom control arm bolt came off good, just take off this brace and get this out of here. Most things I like to do this, but especially with suspension, I'll thread the bolts back up because most of these look alike. I actually can't remove this control arm right now, so I'm just going to take off the spindle and then get that out there. Time for the tie rod. I'm going to thread the original bolts back into this bump stop so I don't hit it or damage the holes, because you do need those for this adapter. I'm going to make this nut flat on top and then just hit it downwards. And break this adjustment nut loose. And we can take out this whole entire tie rod. I would mark where these tie rods are, but I'm not going to use these ones, so it doesn't matter. And then if I ever do reuse them, I can just eyeball it. Now I can put this nut back on and get this inner tie rod tool after I take off this whole entire knuckle. Did we get the nut off? Nope, definitely do not. So the bottom part is spinning, so I'm going to try putting a load on it and then seeing if that helps get it off. Yep, it's not spinning anymore. Oops. And this nut is off of the bottom one, so we take this top one off and the knuckle should come off. See if we can release this a little bit. There we go. Needed some love taps. Now we can take off this lower control arm. There we go. I tried getting off my inner tie rod without an actual inner tie rod tool with just some wrenches, and there's no way I was getting it. But this tool has some rollers on the inside that'll get past the rounded part, which is why you can't get a long socket or whatever on it. And then you can actually bite the biting points for a socket or for a wrench over there. And it takes a size 30 socket and then a 1/2 inch will break it free. There we go. So you're supposed to shave off these little nubs inside of here, 2 of them on both sides, and then you can get the lower control arm in. I've just been using a Dremel and it's been working out the best. Once you got all of them shaved down and they're actually flat, then you can fit in the lower control arm and then you should be good. Now that I have the knuckle off the car, we have to mount the knuckle adapter, and then I believe I have it set up to 0 Ackerman, but we're going to see how much we need to trim off. And if you take that bolt out, that'll adjust the Ackerman to where you want it. This should be able to slide back and forth, and then you can see that it hits the spindle over here if it is mounted correctly. You need to shave a little bit on this line that is going across it, and then maybe a little bit on this edge right here, so it can have enough clearance. Because it's rubbing right there. And this is if you want to have 0 Ackerman, you'd have to do this. You can get away with not doing it, leaving it at a different Ackerman, but I want to have it at 0, so you shave it a little bit, and you can have free will to adjust it whenever you want to add a track if you don't like 0. Got the section marked that I want to cut. It's right in line with this part, and then start at this little line right here and then down to the bottom. Alright, we got some shaved off and we're going to see if that's enough or not. Might shave off a little bit down there just in case. Might be touching a little bit, but pretty sure we're there. Finished tightening that when it's on the car, but it's not for right now. Just needed to make sure that I had enough clearance, and I'm not. Light is shining through on all edges. So for this offset rack spacer, you can't get this bolt out without loosening this little Allen inside of there. Whenever you loosen it, then you can move this bolt in and out. Then you can actually tighten this down without this rotating on you, because you need these nubs right here to stay still inside of here. You also want to put Loctite on these threads. I think you want to torque this to 60 to 75 foot-pounds, but I'm just going to do 75. Whenever you're installing the Heim joint, whenever you're installing the joint for the inner tie rod, you want to make sure that this nut is on top, or else you won't be able to take off the bolt from the top side because the lower control arm is there. Whenever you go in with the lower control arm, you have to make sure you have the right side. So make sure that the upper part is going up, and since we shaved off those nubs, it should be pretty easy to slide in here and just feed a bolt in. Throw this on the car. I like to try and make sure that these joints can move around so I don't get binded up one way, and then I can actually move them around and get it in a lot easier. Since I installed the offset rack spacer first, I gotta slide this part on, the stud first, and then feed the part of this part of the lower control arm over there. Going to put on my brake caliper in the bracket so I can get it out of the way, so I can mount my sway bar bracket to the lower control arm and then have more room. This is how the bracket goes. I had to take apart both sides of the sway bar mounts and then lift up the sway bar and rotate it a little bit to get it to work on this bracket. To thread on this tie rod adapter, I'll start threading it on one end. I'll try and thread it into the other end, and then it'll thread into each other. Now that I got the tie rod adapter on, I can tighten these bottom bolts and then be done with it. You also want to tighten back up this little Allen right here. And now this is how much angle we got. We have a lot more than we did before. I'm rubbing a little bit on my wheel speed sensor bracket right here. So I might either shave that bracket or pull this bump stop out a little bit more so I don't hit it coming up on this front side. I had to take out the wheel speed sensor because I'm rubbing against this bracket. So I hit it. And then, now I'm not hitting the bracket anymore. And then instead of a 15mm wheel spacer, I'm using a 25mm one.